Hello, my name's Simon Crafar. We're in the MotoGP paddock, and as you can see, we're in the Michelin tyre fitting bay. Because this week's Tech Talk is about tyres in MotoGP. You know, all of the subjects I cover in Tech Talk really surprise me how much goes into them when you really look into them, and nothing has surprised me more than tyres. Truly amazing. I hope I can get across just a little bit of how difficult this job is for the Michelin guys. So I'm told there's 25 to 30 components that go into making up one tyre. There's the metal, like the steel wire and the bead and the construction. Then there's the textile that goes into the construction. Then there's all of the components that go into the rubber compound, which obviously can be adjusted to make softer, harder, weaker, stronger compounds. But I'm even told, Piero told me this is truly amazing, that like baking a cake, if you put the ingredients of that rubber together in a different order, a different way of mixing it, you can change the molecular structure of the rubber. So, for example, you can change it more vertically or horizontally. So, front tyre under brakes can be stronger vertically and then be softer on its side, or reverse it depending on how you put it together and bake it. Amazing. Imagine the array of compounds. So speaking of compounds, Michelin have to announce at the beginning of the year, before the year starts, all of the compounds that are going to be used at each track, so the teams can plan accordingly. And so I don't know, I'm not allowed to know how many compounds Michelin have, but say there's 20, 30, I don't know. What they do is they can select their soft, medium and hard from anywhere on that spectrum, meaning if it's Thailand, Malaysia in the heat, or Valencia in the autumn cold, so they can move it around. And construction, the Michelin only use 2 rear constructions, 1 front. I was surprised. I thought they'd change it more regularly, and they pointed out that once you've got a good one, it's good to leave it, because changing a construction means bike setup has to change. I mean, you've seen how this new construction rear has affected the paddock, this year. Imagine if you changed it every race. There'd be like crew chiefs pulling their hair out, and people getting lost, some leaping the paddock, this field to be more spread out, So, one of those rare constructions is to dissipate heat better. We'll get into that in a moment. And the other one is the standard one that we use everywhere else. So let's talk about when the tyre is baked and comes out of the mold. It goes through a quality control check, which is X-ray to see internally, visual on the, human looking at it, make sure all's good, and weight check. Barcode goes on it, and it goes into a climate-controlled container with all of the other tyres from each 45 tyre batch for each rider. So barcodes controlled what tyres are in what batch, and there's a batch number. They go in that climate-controlled container so they don't get frozen or cooked by the sun on the way and to the circuit. Then when they arrive at the circuit, for you conspiracy theorists out there, I like this one, on Wednesday, the IRTA representative pulls out of a hat a number of a batch and hands it to a team, like by random numbers. And the team witnessed this, so you can't go, oh, that one better go to him. No, it's your number, you're like that. So, yeah, even if Michelin wanted to help someone in particular, rider, they can't, Great idea. So next thing, allocation. Once the rider gets those tyres, or the team get them, mount them up here, exact barcode per rider. Out of that 45 tyre allocation, it's 15 slick fronts, 15 slick rears. Then there's, that's 5 soft fronts, 5 medium fronts, 5 hard fronts. Then on the rears, it's 6 softs, 5 mediums, 4 hards. The softs last less, so but also you need some for qualifying, don't you? No. They sometimes make that rear allocation more softs for the front when it's cold track temperatures. I think they're going to do that in Valencia. Anyway, and the wets, 8 rears, 7 fronts, and anyway, you're allowed to choose from that a few less. I think it's 7 rears and 6 fronts from that allocation in any order you want. Anyway, so that's allocation. Then next thing is pressure. They get mounted up here, the correct tyres per rider, and they've got special machines, compressors, that remove all the humidity from the air, because more humidity means bigger pressure change with temperature. We used to use nitrogen because it doesn't matter if it's cold or hot, it stays the same temperature. This air, apparently, with all the moisture removed, is very close to nitrogen. Minimum pressure change, well, less pressure change, with temperature. Speaking of pressure change, Michelin specify that the teams cannot run under a certain pressure because of the damage it can do to the construction. Danger, the tyre might blow out or something. So the wheels all have electronic recorders, sensors in there, to make sure nobody goes under that. Above that, they're free to do what they want. I thought lower pressure meant more temperature. It's actually the reverse. So I was explained that imagine lower pressure means bigger contact patch. Bigger contact patch means that same amount of load gets spread over a bigger area, less temperature. As you reduce the contact patch with more pressure, you put the same amount of load through a smaller area, causing more temperature. And I was like, oh, right, okay, so the temperature goes up of the rubber. But obviously, if you go too high, you get small contact patch. Yeah, the temperature's going to rock it up, but you're going to have less grip. So there's a balance between the two, like everything. Speaking of balance between the two, the grip comes from slip. Apparently, if there's no slip, you haven't got grip. You need amount of slip, and the slip, I've forgotten the word now. Anyway, so as the tyre slips across the surface, as it resists, the simple word I was looking, as it resists that is the grip level, So without slip, you don't have grip, but with slip comes wear. So the tyre manufacturer is trying to make a tyre that, does not slip and wear too fast. So basically, if it wears too quick, it's going to grip good, but it's going to run out before the end of the race, leave you in trouble. So if it doesn't wear enough, it's not going to have enough grip to allow you to fight at the front. So again, another balance. So I said to them, track surface, that must play a big part. What's the perfect track surface? And apparently it's a mix of macro, which is the big stones, and micro, which is all the little stuff in between. And because the macro is more aggressive, deforms the rubber more, causes more heat, and the micro is a bigger contact patch, filling everything in, less aggressive, gives you a bigger area, surface area, and the combination is the perfect grip. I totally understand that because I ride on a track regularly that is worn out surface and only has the macro left, which is the big stones. And the grip is average and the tyre wear is horrendous because you've only got the aggressive stones causing the heat and tyres just gone. So then the next thing about track surface, I'd go all the things that affect grip and temperature and tyre wear, you've got to take into account rider, his style, how aggressive he is on the throttle and brakes and what he does on the bike. Then you've got to take into account bike setup, so geometry, suspension. Then there's track temperature, like weather. And now there's electronics, how well the electronics work. Unbelievable amount of things to juggle and choose the right tyres. Then you've got the families of circuits. I think I'd like to finish on that because I got explained when you look at tracks like Austria and Thailand, they're very stop-start, long straights, come out of a slow corner, stand the bike up, brah, 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 and you're on the centre of the tyre, it's doing a lot of work, a lot of spinning, and the temperature of that centre of the tyre goes, so they have a construction that dissipates the heat at those circuits from the centre of the rear better. And then you go to the more normal circuits, I'd say like Mugello, Barcelona, Argentina and Motegi, and they are more evenly left and right, so you can use a symmetric front, which is the same compound. Most circuits use asymmetric rear, which is different compound on each side, believe it or not. And then you get the Phillip Island, Valencia, Saxon ring, which is like left, 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 left with the odd right in there, which Michelin have to front and rear have a strong compound on the left and a much softer on the right for the odd right-handers. So there's some temperature and grip on that side. You know, tyres have blown my mind just with a little look into them. I hope you've enjoyed this, and we'll see you next week at Aragon for the next Tech Talk.